Counsel?
May I begin? Or may I proceed, excuse me?
Yes.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as children, we are taught fairy tales. We are brought up with them. And in those fairy tales, we learn a number of things about good and evil, right and wrong, but often those images are less than 100% accurate. We're told that stepmothers are all evil. We are told that meek women are good. We are told that witches are dark, with severe features, while fairy godmothers have golden locks and fair skin. And mind you, this does not end with humans. Indeed, from the Three Little Pigs to Little Red Riding Hood to Peter and the Wolf, we are taught that wolves are evil. They are bad, they're malicious, they're cruel. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you remember nothing else that I say today, remember this. This case will change your conventional beliefs. My name is Megan Kilsey, and I represent Alex T. Wolf, who is the defendant in this case. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why would this change your conventional beliefs? Well, Alexander T. Wolf is going to testify today, and he's going to tell you his side of the story, a story that has yet to be heard for centuries. And he's going to tell you that this case is not really about blowing down houses. In fact, this case started, or rather, his story started, about baking a cake. Yes, it was about baking a cake for his grandmother. And he realized he was out of an essential ingredient. So what did he do? Well, pretty much what anyone would do. He went to go seek assistance from his neighbors. And he happened to reach the first house of pig number one, Mr. Pig. And he knocked on his door. And what was that house made out of? It was made out of straw. Straw, ladies and gentlemen. A house that could easily be destroyed by wind, by storm, by anything, really, that has any power to it. He knocked on the door, heard no response, was going to leave, but you see, Mr. Wolf had been afflicted at the time with a rather arduous cold. And considering that Mr. Wolf is quite large, in fact, twice, 3 times the size of Mr. Pig, and Mr. Pig's house was small, this arduous cold and a large sneeze coming on happened to blow the house down. Now, at house 2, a similar situation happened. He was seeking the assistance of pig number 2, but had a large sneeze and blew the house down. A house made of sticks, not much stronger than the initial house. And yes, it is undisputed. Mr. Wolf did consume the first 2 pigs. That is true. But ladies and gentlemen, this is something we have to think about for a moment. First of all, most of the world are carnivores. Indeed, what do we eat? Sheep, cattle, deer? We consume meat. Now, are we going to hold Alexander T. Wolf responsible for doing what we do every day? Majority of the world aren't vegetarians, ladies and gentlemen. Furthermore, what's also important to consider is that the death of the pigs was not the intent of Mr. Wolf. In fact, like I said before, he had gone to seek the assistance of his neighbors in baking a cake. Now, my mother always told me never to leave food on my plate. It's the same principle really for Mr. Wolf. He simply thought there was food there, why let it go to waste? I'm sure there are hungry wolves in the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at the close of this case, we of course are going to be asking you to find Mr. Wolf innocent of all charges that Mr. Malfitano and the state will be bringing. However, right now that isn't my concern. Right now, I'd like to address the issue of keeping an open mind to the evidence that you hear. During jury voir dire, you promised me, each and every one of you, looked me in the eye, and you promised me that you would be able to keep an open mind, that you would listen to all the evidence with an unbiased consideration. You will hear testimony from Mr. Wolf, and you will consider it just as clearly from Mr. Wolf, the only witness to the events of that day and once upon a time, as well as the information provided by the state from people who never actually saw any of this happen. You will take both statements, and it will be up to you to balance it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a case about murder and mayhem. It is a case about misconception. It is a case about biases, about preconceptions that we have been taught to believe from the time we were children. But now you have the opportunity to bring justice to an untold story. It will be up to you to decide. Is Mr. Wolf guilty of the charges Mr. Amalfitano charges? Or rather, is he merely guilty of being a member of a breed that we've been taught to hate? Thank you. I'll just chill here.
How did that feel?
Yeah, you can just hang out there.
It felt okay. It felt kind of silly trying to, talk about carnivores and vegetarians, but,
What did anyone in the jury have any reaction? It was very clear. You seemed comfortable, you were moving, but it wasn't too much. One thing that, I don't know if anyone else felt this, did anyone else, or did you feel your voice, you have a beautiful, strong voice. This is a kind of small room. Did you feel that sometimes the voice got loud, or did that not? Did anyone feel that? It's just me and David. What I think you could do is be a little more, just this way you, and after I asked you the question, you said, oh, I felt, I felt fine, but I was a little funny about talking about carnivores. You have a great strong voice even when you're not trying to project.
Okay.
So in this space, your natural voice will carry. And in that way, you can be a little more conversational and less of, I kind of felt, I had this metaphor, you were like the patron saint of wolves, and instead be, or you could play with, this poor wolf is misunderstood. Take it down, so that the jury then feels, wow, we've really been thinking about wolves in a way that I feel ashamed. I didn't really mean to think about the wolf that way. So, so you could play with vocalizations, and then in moments get that great booming voice that you have. Did you have any?
I totally agree with that, because I think Michael came on as very much a traditional prosecutor of demonizing the wolf. And by being a strong speaker and a strong person, that will come through. But by playing a softer message, I will tell you this over and over again through the semester. If you have a choice between saying someone's mistaken or saying they're lying, choose mistaken. If you have a choice between making the jury angry or sympathetic, go for sympathetic. It's only lawyers who feel comfortable with confrontational emotions, right? Normal people don't like confrontational emotions. We do, right? Especially when we are confronting people. We don't like being confronted, but we like confronting others. And so you have to remember the message of compassion and sympathy is always more appealing to be heard. Now that doesn't mean you become a pancake or that every case is about that. If someone's lying and you can prove it, you prove it, right? And you bang it home. You better be right. You better make sure everyone agrees. So I completely agree. And I really like her speaking style. I think it was working very well for her. A little strident and a little loud, but I think that's because you think that's what you're supposed to be doing, as opposed to your normal.
Yeah, you had an image of the attorney.
Right. So let's give her 2 more sentences of, you're now not talking as a lawyer, you're talking to your friends about this case. And let's just see how it changes. Just the same words. Do you think that's a good idea, Michelle?
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not about murder and mayhem. This is a case about misconception. We are taught as children to fear wolves, to dislike them, to hate them.
Keep going.
Okay,
Are you talking? Who do you know anybody here?
Sorry.
On the panel?
Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Do you have a friend here? Do you know anyone in this class?
Vaguely. Anyway.
Vaguely?
Vaguely.
Can you
You
look
talking
at
about Bobby?
I know Bobby a little bit.
It's
so.
a little bit.
So just don't try to defend the wolf.
Okay.
Just
Tell him about it.
tell him that in this country we live in, people are really afraid of wolves, and that's very sad. So try to get them to.
Go closer. Just go talk to you.
Yeah. This is just for the.
This is an experiment.
Yeah.
So, in one, all right, we're taught from a young age to hate wolves, to fear them. We learn from the fairy tales we've been taught as children that certain things are good and certain things are evil, that there's a clear right and wrong.
All right, I'm going to jump in because I want to try something. Okay. This is your friend Bobby. I want you to say, Bobby, I want to tell you about something I learned today. I read something about wolves, and I think you might be interested in this, and let me tell you. And let's see how it comes out.
All right. I learned something that's pretty interesting about wolves today, that it happens to be that people are largely fear them, and for some reason it is a mass-believed concept, and that, this is awkward. Apparently they seem to relate it back to the stories they learned as children, but I think that it's about time we start looking past the things we learned as children and start thinking from a new perspective, perhaps an open mind.
Good.
What did you guys think of that? So
I'm a loud person generally, so that might be also the problem. So I don't know if that might be.
What I wonder, this is the thing, I really like your public persona. I think it's very effective. What I'm trying to do in this class is test everyone's limits a little bit.
And give you alternatives.
And give you alternatives. So I'm not saying that what we're doing will be what you pick, but I do think that there will be people who relate, and I don't know you yet, right? But there will be people who relate to you just as much as they will relate to your public persona. And I'm trying to find a way to meld the two, to let a little bit of who you are come out.
When you speak as, when you say, I'm a loud person, or this or that, there's a more relaxed feeling about you that I think people who don't know you, the jury who doesn't know you, won't think she's a lawyer. You know, because when you're sitting in a jury box, you want to feel this is a person that I can relate to, who's going to tell me what is right and what's working. And so if you're so far in this, which isn't to say you want to use ginormous all the time, but if you're so far in a very formal vernacular or formal stance, it may be hard to relate to. And your personality is not, you know, the few times that you've come out of your lawyer character, you're very approachable and very relaxed. So you can play with that edge of rehearsal and then telling someone, because they're not your friends, but they are people that you want to say, look, this is you're not really understanding this. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get what's going on here.
That's great, okay? Lawyer as teacher, lawyer as friend. Once they start thinking of you as a lawyer, you've got a hurdle to get over, right? Then you're a lawyer, you're a hired gun. If they think of you as their friend, as someone who's going to teach them about the case, now you're way ahead of your opponent. Okay, so we'll play with this, because I don't want to untrain you from what's good about your public persona. I just want to let a little more of Megan in. So here's a real quick substantive critique. Battle of the facts. Again, openings are about facts. You never told us what the houses were made out of. She told us. That really helps her case. The more a lawyer gives the jury the key facts, the more they're going to trust you. Oh, if I sneezed on a house of straw, it might fall down. Now I get it. You have to figure out how to minimize your bad facts and maximize
That's why I
your
didn't say it.
That's my point. Leaving out a critical, what you think is a bad fact, if they don't trust you, they think you're hiding stuff, you're going to lose. You have to find, we'll do this next class when we start building theories, figure out how to maximize your best facts and minimize your bad facts so they're not bad. You've got a wolf who blew down a house and ate the bodies. You don't have to worry so much about this ridiculous story about how he was getting a cup of sugar, you know, just like he had a gun with the safety off in a car that's running. Oh, that didn't work either. Okay, so there are times that a really obvious case can lose, but you have a pretty obvious case. You don't need to run away from your bad facts.
You know you have a strong sneeze, turn your head away.
Right.
So
I was going to say his grandmother was a type 2 diabetic.
Don't run away from your bad facts. She won that by giving more of the critical facts. Just a quick thing just for you, Michael, that just for everybody, right? The criminal defendant does not have to put on any evidence. They have a constitutional right to sit there mute. Now, in every case we do, they will. You cannot talk as a prosecutor in opening about what the defense will do. That's a mistrial. I've seen it happen. Okay, I've seen it happen here. I actually saw it happen once. I didn't do that. I saw it happen once in a courtroom. The prosecutor talked about what the defendant was going to say. You lose. Okay. Your opening, although it was fun, in real life was way too inflammatory. Okay? You get 1.5 sentences in opening in which you can say something slightly inflammatory. And then you have to let the facts be inflammatory. You can't inflame them. You can't argue about them. So you can't
They'll never know the joy of rolling in feces again. Save that for closing. Maybe save that in general. But you can't do it in opening.
I was trying to gauge that one.
You can't.